Here we go. All right. Well, we are getting started as some of our attendees are rolling in here. Welcome, Ryan. Welcome, Nikki. How's it going?
Hey, I'm pumped for
I'm excited to be getting into this today with you guys. It's been a minute. It has been a minute. Ryan got the green screen there, and Nikki got all of her awards, which is really cool. I see the top voice right there. I don't know about you guys, but I'm out in not so sunny San Diego right now, which we've got a weird East Coast vibe with a lot of rain.
Did you see my cold calling video I posted today? It was blizzarding in my backyard.
That's amazing. I saw that snow and just was like, what is that? I forgot. It's been a while since I've been on the East Coast.
Oh, yeah.
But we have a great one for everyone today. So I am super excited to be sharing with y'all our very first, let's cue this up here, webinar Lifter Sales Development Series. So this is going to be an ongoing thing that we have here, and Nikki and Ryan are the very brave first to hop in with us, and hopefully we'll do a good enough job and bring it back. But let's just talk a little bit about who these folks are. So Ryan is over at Flosum as the head of business development, and Nikki, JB sales, and myself, I am your trusted host and a RightBound advisor, working very closely with them. And then for the rest of my time, I work at a company called The Call Guys. And we are excited today to be talking to you guys about sequences that actually start conversations. We're going to get a little bit into like texting versus voicemail and doing some account-based outreach. And you may or may not know, Ryan is the king of video. So we've got him on today to talk about what is the next best tactic other than waving a sign with somebody's name on it, which is kind of an outplayed and overdone thing that's getting to be a little bit cringy. And last but not least, my favorite topic, we'll get into some cold calling tips. But before we do that, I've got an exciting preview for each and every one of you, brought to you by our very own sponsors. So this is brought to you by Lifter, a RightBound product. And we've got this video queued up for you right here. All right, and if you don't know, Lifter is here to change the prospecting game. So you can check out rightbound.com/Lifter, and I'll drop this link for you guys before the show is over, Lifter-preview, and I'll drop that in the chat. But let's get into it, guys. So Nikki, Ryan, when it comes to prospecting, when it comes to being relevant in March of 2023, where do you even start? You know, how do you get those conversations going? And Nikki, I'd love to hear from you on that one.
First, I have to share an unpopular opinion about video and the whiteboard. I think so here's a thing that I do that's like a little twist on it. Yes, we don't want to just be waving it, but because what I'm going to be talking about is being radically human, have it upside down. Their name is upside down. So it's me holding it like this. I see it and then I look and realize it's upside down, laugh at myself a little bit and turn it right side up, right? Now y'all know my secret. I don't really be laughing, but anyway, again, like it, whatever method or tactic we're talking about, even if the method or tactic is something that on its own or done sort of generically wouldn't work or is something we want to leave behind, I think there are still creative and fun ways to use some of the older stuff. And I do also think that right now it's so important that we're having fun when we do this work. But to your actual question,
Yeah.
What's working today? I guess it's another sort of facet of this radically human approach that I keep talking about is I have definitely started to favor phone over email. Don't get me wrong, across marketing and sales, like the big picture numbers say that email is tried, tested, and it delivers. But it's really difficult to argue that a phone call is not the quickest way to a yes or no. And what we know is, right, we have to get those no's out of the way, right, in order to get to our yes. So for me, if the choice is, right, I've got my list of 25 people, I send each of them, hey, a hyper personalized email, right, and then wait for the reply, or just call them. I have found calling in that situation to be more successful and, again, more fun. And one of the other things, and I'm so sorry I get so excited about this stuff, and reasons why I do this, or I'm sorry, why I think people don't do this and they go to the email, is because it just slips people's minds that you can personalize a cold call.
Yeah.
Right? Think of cold calls as being, you're reading a script, and even if you're doing it well, right, or you're using like a framework, even if you're doing it well, though, the difference between, do you want to hang up or roll the dice? And, I'm reaching out for a couple reasons. One, you said something on this podcast and it really resonated with me. Repeat the quote and then tell them, so I saw that and I had to reach out. And then say, but that's not actually what got you on my radar. I saw your company XYZ, and then you go into the trigger. So we are so used to doing that on an email that it, again, doesn't occur to people to start the conversation that way on the phone. So my long-winded answer for saying, call people on the phone.
And you know what? I like where you're getting at with that. But Ryan, I'm curious to hear your take. How do you get the conversation started?
Today, I won't go into like bashing mediums or anything like that. I will, if we really want to look at it, email is not a great ROI if you're doing it just canned in that approach. You'll even see companies like SalesLoft and Outreach saying, "Oh, don't just mass populate," and they literally gave us the ability to mass shoot. So like even those companies are saying this is not the way. Back to Nikki's point, like the relevance. Really knowing why you're reaching out, not just reaching out because this person has the title that I usually go after. I talk about and teach a lot about relevance-based prospecting and understanding what are the metrics that the people you're calling, what are they targeted on? And how does your solution help address or help with those metrics? Because that's what a person's going to care about at the end of the day. So when it comes to what's working, it could be a blend of all three. Some people are killing it with email right now. Some people are killing it with phone. Some people are killing it with video. Maybe door to door. I don't know if we're getting to that point in sales just yet. But I think that slowing it down and stopping with the generic approach and really as like someone doing outbound, understanding what the hell your product actually solves for are the things that are going to help you stand out in this market. I know it sounds generic and it sounds preachy, but the reality is that if you slow it down and don't can it, and Nikki's saying act, radically human, those are the things that are probably going to get you to cut to the noise at this point. Because it's not easy right now.
Yeah, for sure. And something you said during our pre-show chat that was really interesting, that resonated, was I never thought about this, but when you talk about communication style and the way that you're able to convey meaning to people, there's limitations to the most popular channels. When it comes to cold calling, you have your voice and your tone. When it comes to email, you just have the text. What is it that is possible out there? It's a little bit of a setup question that allows you to have all of it together.
So this is what I've been preaching. Like, we maximize every channel that we know right now. So phone, you're taught about tonality. You're able to convey the audio of what you're saying, and there's a connection because you're speaking to a human. Email, you're able to show your copywriting skills, and you could even include an image in that. With video selling, we are not utilizing the most important part of it, which is visualization. And you're able to have your voice, visualization, and if we'll show you at the tail end when we get into it, you can actually use your copywriting ability as well. So that's where I think the big shift is going to come in video selling. I'm sure some of you guys have seen like Ty's video that went out. Like, these are the principles that I'm trying to teach folks that are going to make a difference in video selling that I've been doing for the past couple of years, and selfishly kind of keeping it to myself. So now I'm ready to release it all.
That's awesome. And we're excited to get into it. But before we do, Nikki, I want to take us back one step to something you were talking about, which was, look, today there's a way that you can start conversations that actually go somewhere. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you've trained and advised other people in being able to get started breaking ground with a brand new prospect? What would you recommend tactically, like, people to actually do when they're getting started?
This is where process is going to become really important. I think a lot of us, are used to starting our day in, one of three places, right? We're going to start in our sales and engagement tools that we can, do execute tasks. Maybe we start in our email so that we can reply to messages, or we start in our CRM, right? So we can look at other things like maybe reporting. I start where the conversations are, right? And that means LinkedIn. Because my process, again, if we're going to be talking about being radically human, then we can't just be talking about being radically human, right? And for me, I don't feel like I'm being as much of my human self if my day is so centered around, right? I got to get this activity out, right? I'm in my numbers, 400 emails this month yields this, yields that. Those things are, of course, important. But when I start my day in LinkedIn, and I've got my set of target accounts, and I've got those, alerts set up for those, right? The moment I log in every day, LinkedIn or SalesNav is going to feed me. Here are the conversations that these people you want to talk to are already having with their peers. Why not begin, right? Why not begin by simply joining those conversations, right? And, I'll caveat this with, I know a lot of folks are like, but what if my prospects aren't on LinkedIn? Pick different personas. Sometimes it's not that simple, but I use the filter on Sales Navigator that just says posted on LinkedIn.
So let's just quickly summarize that, because that was a insanely impactful tip. Like, using Sales Navigator to find the people who are actually active on LinkedIn and tracking what it is that's going on in their world, so that you have something relevant to actually begin to engage them with. So being able to use it to, and that's actually a bit of a hot take there. So if they're not on LinkedIn, move on from that person. And one of the things that I've learned in the teams that I've managed is that's actually really great advice, because the worst thing that ends up happening is you go into a analysis paralysis like funnel. You just start digging and digging and digging. You go to Google and Twitter and you start looking for this person's info, and next thing you know, you're like 45 minutes in and you haven't done anything that's actually going to get you closer to meeting with that person. You've just looked for information. So one tip there that I didn't want people to lose from what you said, Nikki, was if you don't have the person there, move on. That's not going to serve you to do your role the best that you can. But let's keep going, because I know you're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean, not that I want this to be a commercial for SalesNav, but if we really want to drill into how understanding those filters makes things go a lot more quickly, right? And then if we want to, tie it into conversations. So in addition to finding those people who are already having conversations, there is a keywords filter which took me a very long time to learn how to use, right? I was like, I'm typing this in and it's excluding the folks, not including them. But once you learn how to use that feature, it goes and reads those hashtags in people's profiles, right? Where it says talks about, right? You can use keywords to find people who are talking about the problem you solve. And so there you're discovering people who may not have been on your radar, who might still be a good fit or a good person to have in your network. So again, all we're talking about here is finding conversations. I'll leave you a third one, which many of you may be doing, but maybe hasn't occurred to you to use in your prospecting, is again, following those relevant hashtags as well, right? This does two things. It does, again, identify people who are having the conversations that you want to have that may not have been on your radar. And if you make this, again, part of starting your day on LinkedIn, simply scrolling through and reading some of those posts to get to understand this is what these people are talking about, it's gonna make you better at what you do, because you won't have to fake curiosity. You won't have to fake empathy or understanding the space. And that is at the heart of what it means to be radically human in your prospecting.
And that's awesome. And before we get into being radically human in your prospecting, because that's going to be a great lead that we'll get into, the thing here that we're trying to achieve is to have relevant conversations with the people and to not be a phony, not to show up in a way that people can read through. Ryan, I'm curious to hear from your end of things, when you're getting into the personalization of it, how far do you end up taking it? How far do you go in order to show somebody, hey, I understand what your challenges are and have an interesting solution for you to consider?
So not that far. This is one of the biggest things that I hear, and I probably got to remove this filter before it drives me insane. But the reason why I say not that far is because this is the thing that holds people up from being relevant in their prospecting. So instead, I have an exercise that I work with companies on called symptom mapping. If you understand the problems that you solve for, and you understand some of those external symptoms might be, you can get really in touch with the relevance quick. It's not going to be the personalization, like, oh, I saw you went to Notre Dame. Like, I don't care about that as much as I care about, like, do you have something of value for me?
Now, this is beginning to get into a hot topic here, right? Because I know that there's a bit of a debate going on. Yeah.
So,
but keep going. Let's hear a little bit more. How does that actually get you to the end goal that you're trying to achieve?
So I make this process quicker for reps because of the fact that, like, hey, like, let's say if it's a PLG company, it's great because you can use the sign up product data, and we may go into that about like Lifter, but in the same sense of, like, if you see that someone just hired 15 SDRs at a company, well, guess what? Ramp time's important, rep profitability is important. They probably have an increased pipeline goal. They probably have new sales targets. Like, those are all metrics that you're going to be able to use to put to your messaging. So if, let's say it's a Lifter, and we saw a bunch of people signed up for it. I was actually just drafting a quick message in a joke to Ran here. It's like, Ron, it's like, I noticed 5 of your reps signed up for the Lifter product. Typically, this is because buyer committees have expanded drastically over the last 6 months, and CFOs are being pulled into the cycle. When reps are signing up for Lifter, it's because they're looking for better and more data on new prospects that are not in your CRM. Curious, Mr. CRO, if you'd be open to seeing how you could duplicate this across your team. We've helped you set like 5 new meetings with prospects that weren't in your data set.
And there it is, because I want to highlight something you just did there. And I know we've talked about this before too, where it's like, here's your current day pain. Here's the thing that you've got going on. And here's a future possibility. Have you ever considered the future possibility that will solve that current day pain? And so it could sound like, hey, I'm curious if this is a challenge that you have, and you insert the typical challenge that would align with that persona. And
Here's
then,
the symptom
and
that
here's the
causes
symptom.
it.
That's a great way of labeling it. And then you
think about
list
it,
a symptom.
CRO is not going to think, oh, it's because we don't have enough CFOs in our data set, in our CRM. So
Exactly.
you're connecting it to the business buyer issue.
And then you got into the future state a bit by asking, have you ever considered? And this is something that I've trained people on cold calls for, the two questions, the probe and the provoke. The probing question is a current day pain. It's like, hey, I'm curious, because when you're probing, you want to be curious. Do you have the symptom of this pain? And then if they get into it and they say, yes, we do, but we already have your competitor. Yes, we do, but we use the spreadsheet because everyone uses spreadsheets for everything. Then you go, hey, no worries, but have you ever considered, and that's where you try to shift it from present to future. Have you ever considered an approach that allows you to do that automatically? So in the case of Lifter, it's like, have you ever considered technology that'll automatically fill the first step of your sequences with buyers that look exactly like your last 10 closed won opportunities without doing any work? That way you can just have your SDR team log in and do the outreach. That's awesome. And I think we have a question here from Scott that I want to get into. So is urgency really something you can create, or is it finding the right triggers? So that's a great question, Scott. Thank you. And by the way, to everyone else, feel free to jump into the comments if you have questions that you want us to handle directly. But I'm curious to hear Nikki's answer on this one. So is urgency something you can create, or is it really about finding those right triggers?
Yeah, one does not simply create urgency. Urgency exists or it doesn't. This is either a problem that they're experiencing enough for them to make a change, or they're not. Meaning that the conversation you end up having with someone who is a fit for a conversation right now should include them spelling that out for you, right? That's the point of your conversation, then the discovery at that point, right? Is you've already gotten them to say, yeah, this is something that I experienced. Now you're getting them to tell you to what extent, right? And what that means. So when I am using email to try and sort of draw out this curiosity, like you all are saying, but trying to draw out whether or not they're experiencing a problem, I do use relevance, and I keep it real simple, right? Like really simple. To use your example, Ryan. So if I'm selling sales training, then when I am in Sales Nav, of course, right, I'm looking exactly for those companies who just hired a bunch of salespeople, right? I'm looking to see, do they have even more open sales roles? Okay. So when I think about what that person might need if I'm selling sales training is, well, what I know is, right, when you're hiring a lot of people, that can put a capacity strain on your enablement team and on your SDR managers, right? Have you considered, right, what it would look like to be able to, get those new reps ramped and up and running without having to slight your more established reps on getting the continuous coaching that they need, right? Is this something you're experiencing? So, and that's the email. I'm not asking, the CTA is not, are you open to having a conversation about this? It's not, can I have 15 minutes? Like, I need to know first, is this even something that you're having an issue with? Because if it's not, then first of all, if it's not, then it's kind of the opposite of radically human for me to then try and get in front of you and make this. I compare it to, and I know a lot of people sort of frown on dating analogies when it comes to sales, but I've had these experiences and I cannot ignore the parallels. So say you're out at some place, right? The places where young single people meet people. It's been a long time for me. But anyway, you're at this place and there's two people that approach you. The first one approaches you like, hey, you're here by yourself. You know what I'm saying? they're assuming you don't have a partner, basically, right? So you're here by yourself. Most of the time people are here by themselves. That's basically the pitch. It means that they're single, but they don't ask that question though. They just walk up and start talking to you as if you had a need, right? An open spot for a new partner. If I don't have that need, I'm just gonna let my eyes glaze over and let this man go ahead and try and buy me a drink or whatever. But first of all, if the person comes up, say I'm wearing one of my favorite t-shirts, which is this Dexter t-shirt, and the first thing this person comes up and says, "Oh, I love that show. Where did you get that t-shirt?" We can have a conversation now. I might have to break
There
your
you
heart,
go.
tell you I'm not in the market for this type of product.
But you can have the conversation.
You
The
can have
person
the
approached
conversation.
you. Yeah.
Yes, and I leave that conversation knowing more about what it takes to get into conversations with people that I want to talk to. And for me, that is exactly what it looks like in a sales motion.
Yeah, the dating analogy, Nikki, is incredible because, even though it's overdone in terms of like people wanting to talk about the comparisons, it's a good one. It's a good one because it's so relevant to what we're doing. We're trying to approach strangers who have never heard of us, or maybe they have, but they don't really remember us. And we're really trying to vet one thing. Do you have a challenge that I can solve for you? And then would you be curious enough to actually learn more about this? And for those of you who are a little bit old-timey like me and have read some of the classics, The Ultimate Sales Machine by Chet Holmes, the late Chet Holmes, he talked about one really famous thing called the buyer's pyramid. And in the buyer's pyramid, what he popularized, and I think he actually was the first one to come up with this thing, is there's only 3% of your market at any given point actively looking for your product, about another 7% of your market that is actually considering looking at your product. So 10%, 1 out of 10, right there is the number. 1 out of 10 will immediately say, yes, I am on the market for that. The next two chunks are 30%, 30%, and the last one is 30%. And the next two, 60%, are either people who don't think they need what you have. And the key word there is they don't think, but they actually do need it. It's usually because they haven't evaluated it or they're not focused on the challenge to solve. And the other one is they aren't actively looking. Now, the last group, that last 30%, will never be open to your product. Those are the people who have already evaluated it and have decided they don't want it. So what that tells us is about 6 out of 10 people you're going to reach out to will be somewhere in the need to be probed or convinced a little bit that, okay, this is a challenge you have. Is this the time now to solve it? And that's the beauty of outbound. But I want to give Ryan a chance here to take us back a step into being able to actually get in front of those folks. So Ryan, tell us a little bit more when it comes to video, when it comes to actually using that as a channel, one that I see a lot of people struggle with, myself included. It's tough. It takes a lot of time. Like, do I need a green screen like you have? What are some of the things you could encourage people to get started with that would actually make an impact in sending videos?
I'm gonna give you a little sneak peek.
Let's do it.
I'm gonna share real quick. All right. So we're gonna start with like why would we do video in the first place? Look at that. Why video? Increases open rates by 16%, increases reply rates by 26%. The data set I'm getting that from is one of the only long compiled actual studies on this from SalesLoft. Why video over phone? Average cold call success rate is 2%. Video success rate is between 4 and 12%. So what actually makes an effective strategy? First of all, it's relevant to the buyer. This is why I go back to that symptom mapping, because if you're going to do video and you want to be relevant in it and not just do a canned pitch, you got to be relevant. So symptom map, understand what the problems you solve for. It's concise and it keeps your attention and it utilizes visualization to its advantage. Conversely, what makes an ineffective one? It's irrelevant and seller focused or company focused. It's drawn out, hard to watch, or boring, and it repeats the strengths of other prospecting mediums without actually capitalizing on its own. So I'm going to give you guys one view or image into what you can do to not hold up a damn whiteboard. Go into your Google Slides. take a picture of your prospect and create something like this.
That is
So
awesome.
I take Ron, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna get the pronunciation great there. And I took the actual trigger. So this is where we're talking about text copywriting as well. Expanding buyer committees ? I have his face, not mine.
All right, Ryan, I got to stop you and ask you right here. So here you have Ron and you have expanding buyer committees. This is kind of like the YouTube clip that you see before you click on the video, right? Like this is basically you're giving them, you're taking
Why
this.
did they do those? Why did they do those? So that you'll click on it. Guess what I did to Ron's face? I reduced the blur so it's sharper. I put shocking colors because that's what gets you to click on Mr. Beast videos. So I'm leveraging a lot of other content creators or YouTube creators concepts. If all you do is take a video like this saying, hey, Ron, I was just on your site and I noticed that you're doing this and I saw this. And typically this is the case when that's true. Curious if you'd be open to learning how you could do ABC without XYZ. If all you do is go on Vidyard, create that thumbnail, copy, paste, export it to JPEG, and put that as the new thumbnail, you are doing more than the majority of video sellers. So I'm giving
I got a great question for you, Ryan. Yeah. Great question for you. But before, one last tip, by the way, those of you who have iPhones, they now have a feature where you can just long hold a picture and it'll carve out the person automatically for you and save that as a new picture that you can use. So it just does a really quick Photoshop for you if you're looking to cut someone's photo out like Ryan did there to put it onto a new background.
And thank you for that. I'm going to use that.
So iPhones now have that baked into their latest update. Sorry, Android users. But Fallon, hi Fallon, has a great question for you, Ryan, which is best way to send a video. So LinkedIn due to email filters. So she's asking like, okay, which one is it? Do you use email? Do you use LinkedIn?
So here's the thing. Don't do it as your first touch in an email. I don't send it to every prospect. I send it to the prospects that open my email more than twice. And I'll send it as a stab or a bump or whatever the heck you want to call it. I will reply to my initial email with that cover image with the video in the background. That's who I send videos to. And on the other side, LinkedIn. If you hit someone in the DMs, I'll usually do a quick voice note when I first connect with them. Hey, looking forward to engaging with your content. Nikki has an amazing approach to like how to slow roll and really build a relationship with somebody via social. So I won't speak to that, but if I'm going to send a video on LinkedIn, my watch rates are 75%.
Wow.
Plus, and my meeting booked or at least reply rate is 10 to 15%. So this is something that can really, really work. Is it easy? Is it for all of your prospects? No. So there's no magic bullet. I don't want to say videos like, oh, it's changing everything, but it can be a really good layer when, let's say, you're nailing it on phone, but you just need that lift in pipeline coverage.
All right, Nikki, I see you getting ready to jump in because I know you've got a good one here too. But before we do, like one more plug for Lifter. This is a good opportunity to let the AI do the stuff that is the lower quality, high velocity work, finding your ideal prospects. It's what RightBound and Lifter does, getting them ready for you in step one of your sequence with working emails, phone numbers, the right title, all the things there waiting for you to just action on. Even getting that first email personalized and using generative AI, which is a partnership they have with Copy AI to pre-write that first email for you so you can focus on things like the email video or the DM video, or we'll get into what Nikki has here for us. So Nikki, let's take it through the first few steps of the sequence. You know, I know you've got an opinion about texting, voicemails. Tell us more about it.
Oh, I do. So, and that is, again, part of a larger sequence. It would definitely not be the first thing that I do. But I think like any other channel or medium, it has to make sense for the story that you're telling or sort of the path you're guiding them down in the big picture of the sequence. So, and it's just a subtle little shift. It isn't, I'm not coming from a place of, as Ryan said, I'm not bashing mediums. I'm not coming from a place of saying, never leave a voicemail. That's stupid. Because if you've ever had, as a salesperson, if you've ever had somebody call you back after you left a voicemail,
great feeling.
There is nothing It makes me more excited. I'm a gangsta, I did it. Anyway, so I get excited when that happens. So don't abandon voicemail altogether. But what I did a little project on with a highly targeted group of people was to give them a call, because I'm a call first kind of girl. When they didn't pick up, or if they didn't pick up, I sent them a text. Text said, "Hey, Ronen, just gave you a call and almost left a voicemail. Then I remembered it's not the 1990s." And then I go into a smiley face or whatever.
Okay.
Difficult
Wait,
for them.
we got to repeat that, Nikki. We got to repeat that. That is an insanely valuable tip there, because everyone wants to know. I want to text. I don't know how to without coming off as aggressive or cringy. Can you repeat that? How do you actually phrase that text after you make the call?
Yeah, called and almost left a voicemail. Then I remembered it's not the 1990s. Now, depending on, right, and then I just put Nikki with Sell Better, by the way, and then ask a question and point to an email that I'm about to send them, right? Or maybe tease out whatever the trigger is and then point to an email that I'm going to be sending them, or a video that I'm going to be sending them. If it's not your personality, or you don't know if your ICP will respond to this sort of thing, then you can certainly keep it as simple as almost left a voicemail, but wondered if this might be easier for you. So you're taking it out of this place where I'm texting you because I'm trying to get all the touches possible and blah, blah, blah. No. I wondered if this might be easier for you, because the truth is, it is easier for me. If you're trying to contact me, you've made a cold call, I am way less likely to even know that you got sent a voicemail than I am to see this text, right? What I found was few people responded to the text directly, but I saw them going and opening my emails. I saw them then watching if I sent them a LinkedIn video. So again, it's just about how you're guiding them down the journey and being as intentional as you can about removing friction when you're trying to discover their preferred communication channel. Because for me, that's what it's about. I'm using all of these channels on first, right? Like up front, which might seem like a lot of activity, right? If it's a call touch, if they don't answer, text touch, if they don't respond by the end of the day, then LinkedIn video. Actually, I've done that before with that, right? Or a quick email. Now I will know, after I've done this with 25 of those targets, and even by day 5 of this 20-day sequence, I'll have some meaningful insight as to what channels this particular group is responding to.
Right. And let's, take us into it a little bit more here. What is radically human approach when it comes to doing prospecting? Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, first I'll say a little bit about why it's important. Let me plug this laptop in so I don't make a rude mistake. But quickly, but why it's important, right? I don't know if you've been keeping up with this, but there's some pretty wild numbers out there about buyers' trust in sellers, right? Something like 88% of them only buy. 88% of them only buy when they see the salesperson as a trusted advisor. 68% of them don't ever want to talk to a salesperson to begin with. And I believe something like 30% of people find sales to be a trustworthy profession. So this theme of people not trusting it's pretty clear, right? It's loud, and it's only getting louder. So that is why, right, when we think about, well, if people have their minds made up about us, right, that we're not to be trusted, that's a pattern, actually, right? I experienced this when I was selling cars, right? When people came onto the lot, they have an expectation that I am going to be right there opening their door for them before they even get a chance to get out of the car. I'm going to be, they can't even look at the car without me pulling up like, hey, you guys like this? So they expect those things. And I won when I broke the patterns. And the reason why was because I was appealing to something human inside of them, right? And that's what you're looking at here, right? So like I talked about at the top, when we focus on starting those conversations, when we are, again, like I mentioned as well, right, focused on, well, what are you actually experiencing? Not what am I actually trying to get you to buy? And then when we focus on, again, trying to figure out where and how they like to be communicated with.
Right.
That is
Right.
what it means, right? And then also in the language that I use as I've been just sharing with you all. But I mean, this is a fact. I just don't see us surviving, frankly, as a profession if we are afraid to lead with that radical humanity.
I love that, Nikki. And you know what? Your story about selling cars, it doesn't make a difference if that's what you're selling or it's software. People want to be connected with as a human first. We're about to wrap up here as we take into the final few moments, but it's crazy how fast time flies when you're having fun. But I guess just a final word, Ryan, and then Nikki, I'd love to hear from you. What's your final tip for people as they are looking out into the future with some uncertainty? They're feeling maybe, if I'm picking up on the general zeitgeist of like the LinkedIn vibe these days, it's a little bit of concern and uncertainty of the predictability of what's going to happen. How do people have something that has been proven, tested in the trenches that feels a little bit more reliable? What kind of takeaway or tip that they can take home today?
So this is a scary time for a lot of people, and the number one thing that can get you through it is actually sales skills. Invest in them, learn. If you're on this webinar, you're already doing something good. Not that my knowledge may be completely useless to you, and I hope that's the case. I hope you figured all this stuff out that we're talking about and have applied some of it, or you're learning something. Either way. But the best way to get through a moment like this is to divulge and just like go straight into making sure that you are polishing your skills and learning, and you will likely survive. It's not gonna be the end of the world. Well, maybe, but it's not going to be the end of the world from what we can tell right now. And if it is, it doesn't matter how good you are at selling.
That's
So
right.
stick to it, invest in yourself, spend the extra time, and we'll pass through this. It could be a month, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, but that will be true sales will always be a valuable skill for the market.
I love it. And Nikki, over to you. What's one final takeaway tip that people can take home and actually action on to do with today's market?
Yeah, I mean, we got to keep our heads about ourselves in these uncertain times, right? And for me, that means connecting with the purpose in the work, which again, say it with me, why a radically human approach is necessary. The way that shows up in prospecting is the multi-channel things that I've been talking about, and drilling even deeper, which we didn't touch on, into multi-threading, right? So understanding what people are up against, finding at, you mentioned the C-suite level, right? And having to make a very clear ROI case with multiple threads and multiple channels. The person who's directly evaluating, right? You're going to want to make the implementation, this really solves the problem and has solved the problem for people like you case, but don't leave out the individual contributors. Hear me, don't leave out the people who are engaging most with the problem. Include them in your prospecting in a human way. Simple way to do that is if you've got something, some piece of content or some tip, right, that your solution or that you personally have seen help people in that end user's position be more successful, just give it to them. Just give it to them, because what you're trying to do after you've joined the conversations that they're having on social is you're trying to influence a conversation for them to have internally, right? So Nikki, the SDR, right? So Nikki, the SDR, got a PDF from Ryan that helped her book a meeting, right? And then the director level person who we're trying to book the meeting with to talk about the solution got a, testimonial, right? And then the person at the top who's going to be making the economic decision got something spelling out the ROI. Do this early and often, and you'll be undeniable.
That's an awesome tip. And, speaking of, as we wrap up here, speaking of giveaways, we have once more for you a really awesome place to start. So Lifter is a brand new product that RightBound put out. And what it does is it finds the best prospects for your sequences for you. their names, their phone numbers, validated emails, all the things. And you wake up in the morning with leads sitting in step one of your sequence. Either screenshot and go to the QR code there, or just go to rightbound.com/lifter-preview if you want to get started with a free account. This is only an offer to the folks who showed up to the webinar today. This isn't something that's being publicly shared. So as a thank you to joining us today, RightBound is giving away leads. So
Yeah,
go get your
want to learn how
leads.
to multi-thread, to Nikki's point, this is going to help you do that. So grab it.
Exactly. It's a great way to multi-thread into a single account, to go deeper into accounts, or to go wide into new accounts as well. And as we wrap up, Ryan, where can people find you?
LinkedIn, Ryan Scalera, TikTok, Ryan Scales Sales, I believe. I think that's my tag. But yeah, those are usually the channels. People try to find me on Instagram, but that's just like a personal page, so leave me alone. Other than that,
So leave them alone. And
those
what
are
do you
my
want
sweet
people to
pictures
know
of my
about?
dog and my kids.
Is there anything you want people to walk away with, knowing about anything that you're working on?
Yeah, video, masterclass, workshops, stuff like that. Even if you're a rep just starting to get into it, you want to hit me up on LinkedIn, send me videos that you've done, ask for tips, stuff like that. Let me know. I'm trying to change this, and I've collected the data for like 2.5 years on video selling. My first ones are terrible. My ones now are a lot better. And I've learned a million different ways and a million different production values to do it at. So you don't need a green screen. You don't need fancy editing skills, although if you have them, you can create really good stuff.
Awesome. Connect with Ryan on LinkedIn. And Nikki, where can people find you, and what do you want them to know about what you're working on?
On LinkedIn, Shaniqua, Nikki's in parentheses, Ivy. And I actually have a LinkedIn community that I've had for a few years now. Communities are hard on LinkedIn, but hang in there with me. It's called BDR Breakthrough. That is where I drop content that I'm not sharing widely. So those will be the first folks to get access to the Radically Human LinkedIn prospecting sequence and the templates thereof. I do also train people on this. And the other piece is I do LinkedIn and sales nav prospecting coaching and training. It's so much fun for me. So please do reach out if this is something that you or your team needs help with.
You guys got to reach out to Nikki, got to reach out to Ryan, follow them on LinkedIn. And these two are some of the best that are out there. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. That's our time. And stay tuned for future events, as we'll have a lot more of these coming with people that you've come to love and know, mostly from the LinkedIn community. Well, that's a wrap, everyone. Take care.